Hey there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm DC Ferguson, author of the Dragon's Dream Saga and the World Building Dojo here on YouTube, where we discuss storytelling and become the best writers we possibly can. For the next few weeks, we're going to be doing something very different. Publishing your books brings you over to the business side of writing, and since publishing my first novel in 2016, I've made a lot of mistakes, taken a lot of courses, and refined my methods through trial and error. So, I've decided to condense that into some helpful instructional videos to familiarize you with what to prepare for, what to expect, and what to avoid. Before we get started, would you like to work with me? Are you an avid reader? If so, I'd love to have you join DC Ferguson's reading group. Get the Dragon's Dream Saga totally free, and all you have to do is leave an honest review on Amazon for me. So, if you're able to leave reviews on Amazon and love to read, fill out the form in the comments below, and I'll get you started with Project Phoenix. Remember, I love you. So, first of all, congratulations. Writing a book is an extraordinary undertaking that not everyone is capable of doing. If you're like me, where you feel it in your bones that this is what you're meant to do, then your journey has begun. You're an author now. Before anyone lays an eye on your work, you've done what most can't and become an author. I remember the pride I felt when I finished my first book. Let me tell you something. It doesn't go away, even after the 13th book. When I first got into publishing, though, if someone had told me how much work was going to be involved, I would have chickened out. If you're already self-publishing and came to see what I have to say, then perhaps you found yourself in the same mire that I was in, unsure what to do, feeling introverted, trying to network myself with people, confused how to find your audience, or wondering if the golden age of making money on Amazon had already passed me by and was now just a club for those who got there first. It was in these dark times that I often turned to a mentor to help me find a way forward. Since I suck at networking, and I didn't actually know a mentor, I spent $50 here, $500 there, taking classes, hiring people to help me fix what I was doing wrong. Let me save you a few $100s right off the bat. 90% of these classes are going to be filled with filler material, designed to pad some few nuggets of wisdom you may not have known. Worse yet, often the most important part, the thing that you feel like you're struggling with the most, will often be glossed over or given the "this part is specific to your book" treatment. A lot of these ebook and instructional classes are done by authors that have become successful for how-to books and classes. If you actually try to find them having success in fiction, their work is either very hard to find under a hidden pen name or non-existent entirely. That's not to say every one of them is a snake oil salesman. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be linking some very important ebooks in my descriptions over the next few videos that are basically required reading for what you're about to do. What I am saying is that the hardest parts of marketing your book, as we'll discuss in a later episode, are going to require a bit of work on your part to find your audience, and not many people can really help you with that, which is why they gloss over it. But we wrote the book. Now, let's talk about what comes next. I wish I could tell you that when you typed "the end," you were finished and all the praise and accolades were coming your way. Unfortunately, we're not really done. So, the first thing that we need to discuss is your editor. No, I'm not talking about your significant other or your friend that's really good at spotting mistakes. I'm talking about an actual editor that's going to hand you back your book with 1,000 red marks in it and tell you to fix it. This is the most expensive endeavor of completing your book, and many first-time authors skip this step because of the prohibitive cost. So, let's start with understanding the three types of editing. First, we have developmental editing. This is where your editor will look at your concept, the flow of your story, continuity, and help you clean up the plot. This is the most expensive type of editing, and it takes the longest. Expect a competitive price around 0.024 cents a word. Next is copy editing. Copy editing is your grammar and sentence structure, the flow of your sentences, and so forth. This is the second most expensive, around 0.017 cents a word. Finally, there's proofreading, which fixes mistakes like missing or misspelled words, grammar, and punctuation. This will be very good at 0.012 cents a word. Now, I hear what you're saying, but DC, these are between 1 and 2 pennies a word. But guy who talks to your monitor, you're right, it sounds cheap, but consider your average novel is about 75,000 words, and now proofreading at 0.012 cents a word is $900. Developmental editing would be $1,800. Wow, sticker shock, right? Can you publish without an editor? Yeah, absolutely. Should you? Never. Believe me when I tell you, much like our nose goes blind to a foul smell in a room after a few minutes, your eyes can go blind to your own mistakes. When I have a beta reader come back to me and tell me that she found a screwed up sentence that went through 6 passes by me and 2 past my editor, a nice warm sensation of guilt and shame washes over me like a shower made of guilt and shame. The point is, get your book edited. This is a no-brainer. If you can't afford it, consider alternatives. Hit up your local college for students that could use the practice in exchange for a lower rate or something like that. Get creative if you have to, because this part is kinda non-negotiable. Next up would be the cover. Can you make your own? Well, let me counter that question with another one. Have you been doing book covers for other authors for a while? If the answer is no, then there you go. There's a reason that you're the author and they're the artist. Even if you own Photoshop and you're pretty good with it, your biggest problem is going to come from knowing the market. What does that mean? Well, let's say you wrote a sci-fi book that takes place off-world. This is what covers in that genre look like. How about Western romance? Well, check these out. Did you notice how with each of the last two examples, I didn't just mention the genre? Romance and sci-fi are too broad a category. You can make an argument that American Pie is a romance, but that doesn't mean it's on the same level as The Notebook. So, I said Western romance and off-world sci-fi. My own series, the Dragon's Dream Saga, is cyberpunk urban fantasy, so in that regard it has a lot more to do with Blade Runner than it does with the Magic Academy books that are burning up urban fantasy and young adult charts. From that comes an important lesson. Your cover should stand out for the sexy devil that it is, but it should also look at home next to the other books in your niche. Keep in mind, when you're super famous and in bookstores everywhere, you don't want your title standing out for the wrong reasons. Someone should be able to look at your book and say, "Oh, that's high fantasy," or "Here's some shifter romance." So, what are we paying for a cover? Well, from my experience, pre-made covers usually set you back about $100. These pre-made covers, if you find a decent artist with lots of experience, are going to be on-genre artwork just waiting to be titled with your book's name and your own. You don't get to change these or feature your book's character, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's the least expensive way to go. Now, my cover artist JD, who is totally awesome, made original covers for me at about the same rate, but I was also paying for the licenses for all the models and fonts. If you're incredibly picky like me, purchasing a series of stock photos for use with your book series makes sense, because you have creative control over what your main character looks like on the cover. Licensing 6 of these images was about $75 through Neostock, which I'll link in the description down below. You do need to be careful, however. As cool as their selection is, a lot of authors are using them. I mean, a lot. So there's risk of overlap. Now, what about if we want to throw around some Cadillac money for totally original art? Well, put the whole gig in the hands of a well-known cover artist, and prices will range from $250 to $1,500. Truthfully, the sky's the limit. This isn't something that you go the cheap route on. This is the face that greets your reader before they ever read the back cover. Which reminds me, don't make the mistake of buying an ebook cover only. Always spend the extra and get yourself the full paperback size cover. Working with an artist, you want to be critical, but not a jerk. Hopefully, we're all professionals here, and this is a business transaction. So, if the moon isn't in the right place or the lighting isn't working for you, speak up. JD and I have an awesome working relationship through 9 books. When he hands me a cover of the work in progress or it's nearing completion, I have the chance to critique the direction. Communication is key. An artist that goes off on their own for days on end without communicating or showing you sketches or including you in the process should not be considered reliable to work with. Look for those kind of red flags. See how they respond to requests and criticism. There are times where I leave something to JD, knowing I can trust his talent and his vision to blow me away. And there have been other times where I had to insist certain things be my way. In the end, we're both loving the finished product and we're always excited to work together. You should look for that in an original artist. Now, what is your artist going to give you and what can you ask for? You should expect the ebook cover and paperback cover, not much else. Now, since I often changed or even did not know the blurb on the back cover, and I also have Photoshop, I did ask my artist for the Photoshop PSD file with the back cover text box that could be edited. You won't get the original work file, and quite honestly, it's a faux pas to even ask for it. You can, however, ask for a few special copies of the cover that don't involve extra work, such as the PSD file with a blurb that you can edit, or the full art cover with no text for any promotional needs you might have down the road. If your artist is super awesome like mine was, you might even get some basic promo images for you to use right away, though those are easy enough to make yourself if you're familiar with Photoshop. So now we have a fully polished manuscript and we have our awesome cover. We're ready to publish, right? Well, yes, but also no. So your first decision as you jump into the world of publishing is going to be with a term that you're going to be hearing a lot. You want to decide if you're going to be taking advantage of Kindle Unlimited or if you're going wide. Going wide means that you will publish with Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and other ebook retailers in addition to Amazon. Doing so means you cannot take advantage of Amazon's Kindle Unlimited program. What are the advantages of going wide? Well, you widen your audience, for one. Two, this opens up more avenues for marketing, and we'll get to that in a later video. Now, what are the downsides? Well, you miss out on Kindle Unlimited readers. These are voracious readers that sign up for a monthly service with Amazon that basically turns Amazon's entire book catalog into an all-you-can-eat buffet. They don't buy your books, they read them for free, but Kindle Unlimited pays you for page reads. So to give you a frame of reference on how that turns out financially, I make about the same royalty on a 75,000 word book in page reads as I do for that same book on sale for $4.99. This is important to consider when you're starting out because you're missing out on a huge chunk of Amazon readers by not being in Kindle Unlimited, but that requires your book is exclusive to Amazon. I don't recommend going wide when you start out, to be honest with you. There's a lot of support for you and immediate money to be made by going to Kindle Unlimited. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get to formatting. I prefer to release my ebook and my paperback at the same time, so you're going to have two totally different formats prepared for the manuscript and the cover. Let's walk through that real quick. Now, you might be all fancy and wrote your book in a program like Vellum, or you might be like me and you stick with the old tried and true Microsoft Word. There are a host of programs to help you format your book for publication, but I'll be honest, I've never really liked Calibre or programs like it all that much. So, I'm going to assume that you're a stick in the mud like me and want to do it yourself. Your ebook is different than the actual manuscript because it has to contain a table of contents. Now, here's how we do that in Word. Every chapter needs to use a heading style. Then we create a table of contents with the headings, and it's mostly automated. You can format the font and the spacing, but mostly you're just leaving it by itself otherwise. This table of contents is for ebook readers when we convert this manuscript to an ebook, so it has to be there. I'd also recommend a copyright page after your title page. Could I make this easier? Well, sure. I'll link a template in the description down below. Then all you have to do is drop in your pretty words in there, update the TOC, and edit the title and copyright page, and you're basically good to go. Ebooks are very easy to format. The paperback is a whole nother animal. Now, I use a customized version of the template CreateSpace used to offer on their website before they were bought by Amazon. I'll link to that too in the description. This requires a lot more work. There's page headers with your name and the book title. There's spacing and font. There's how your chapters are laid out. I do all of this in part myself, but if you find it too daunting, your editor can format the book for you, but that's usually where you're paying a premium for their services, not just basic proofreading. Because your artist is awesome, you also have the ebook cover art and a full-size paperback cover art ready to go. Ebook cover art should be approximately 2560 by 1600 pixels for most fiction novels, although Amazon will take whatever size is appropriate For example, like a square-shaped size for children's books or what have you. The specific dimensions that you can use are located in the help section of your Kindle bookshelf, and I'd highly recommend that you at least give it a long look before publishing your first book. Your paperback cover needs to be in a print-ready PDF, which basically means that it's in Photoshop. You take your back cover and you save it as a PDF. That's it. There's nothing to it. Now, here's where we start getting in the weeds a little, and I'm going to do my best to help you here. As we start the creation process with Amazon, you need a few things that you're going to agonize over. The first thing is your blurb. If you rolled your eyes, congrats, you just joined 90% of all other authors. We hate blurbs. Here's what I know from every class I've taken and a bit of advice I've gotten to make this easier for you. Your first sentence should be under 6 words, while immediately making me want to read more. The dragon is out of hiding. Cora was trained to be a ghost. A new evil has risen. Now, here's the rule. Don't summarize. I don't need you to tell me what the book is about. This is a business deal. I need you to tell me why I need this book. Sell me on things like theme, the world, the struggle at the center of the story. I don't care if your main character grew up on a farm and their whole town was burned to a cinder. A great way to do this is a before and after. Start with your hook. A new evil has risen. To Jennifer, the war was far away. Now, hit me with but when. These are 2 of the most important and powerful words in your blurb. So, a new evil has risen. To Jennifer, the war was far away. But when the darkness comes to her doorstep, Jennifer must make a choice. Will she run from the only home she's ever known or stand and fight? See, this is already sounding like something I want to read. I'm asking questions about it. Is she gonna fight? So, finally, we'll wrap it up by talking about sweet, romantic, or how pulse-pounding or thrilling it is. A lot of authors are really divided on advising that you compare famous books that are similar to your work. It invites comparisons of that book or author against you, and that's always inadvisable. So I'd be in the camp of don't do it. Finally, jam a call to action in there like get it now and call it a day. Don't use the call to action on your back cover. I don't either. But I do it in the Amazon description for sure. As you can see, the blurb isn't so bad if you kind of put it into a formula. So, here's another little pro tip. The box where you're putting your description in takes some HTML code. I always use the B tag for boldface and H3 for header size 3, so that the very first line in our tagline pops. Just remember, close it off with /B and /H3 when you're done, or it'll bold the whole description. For more inspiration on blurbs, you can look at other books in your genre, but I'll tell you right now, you're going to find famous authors that'll summarize. You'll find famous authors that will just have a list of quotes from the New York Times and USA Today and basically break every rule that anyone's ever going to teach you. This is why we don't compare ourselves to the most famous people in the genre, because these folks have a marketing team that could sell barbecue to old ladies wearing white gloves just on author name recognition alone. Next up, we have 7 keywords. These are the keywords people will search Amazon to find you. What I do with these is what's called keyword stuffing. Each of these keywords has a 45 character limit last time I checked. So, we open up our web browser in incognito mode, and we search for a word in the Kindle Books section of Amazon and see what results we get. Since we're in incognito, it's giving us raw results, not ones that have been tailored to our buying habits. We type in fantasy, we'll say, and we'll see what suggestions it makes. These are the high frequency, most searched terms. Obviously, don't use them if they don't apply to you. Like if you didn't write a romance, then you obviously don't want fantasy romance. What you do want, though, is a list of words that you can jam into the box, so that any combination of that word or those words turns a result. So, elf, dwarf, fairy, rogue, fantasy war will find dwarven rogues as well as fairy wars. See? Now do that 7 times. Again, take your time, do your research. Then comes a part that's often overlooked, but we're going to talk about it for good reason. Your ISBN. Amazon will issue you a completely free ISBN for use with their services. If you go this way, the ISBN info will need to be on the copyright page of your manuscript. The other way you go is to buy your own ISBN, which allows you to have your paperback sold in bookstores and major retailers like Books A Million and Barnes & Noble. If you're looking to negotiate your way into these stores, it is wise to purchase your own, but they're not cheap. Bowker, the U.S. standard for ISBN sales, sells them at $125 for one and a 10-pack for $295. Obviously, the deal is in the 10-pack, but it's another expense. Why am I mentioning this? Well, two reasons. The first is that you're the publisher of record when you have your own ISBN. It's coded into the barcode that D.C. Ferguson is the publisher of this book. Whereas if you have a free one, then the publisher is going to be Kindle or Ingram Spark or whoever you go with. The second reason is more complicated, but it is a warning to you all. This is a company right here that I have never worked with or heard of. Up until a couple of months ago, my first novel was available on this and many other websites like it for sometimes more than the $9.99 retail for the paperback, but more worrisome, sometimes it was up for less. Worse still, if this dealer works with Amazon, they can actually list alongside you on your paperback page and undercut you. If they sell a copy, you might get 30 cents, but worse, you might get nothing. How does this happen? Well, from my research, Amazon does print to demand, but will sometimes print off copies they have on hand for shipping. If these paperbacks they printed go unsold for a length of time, they're liquidated to wholesale distributors who can then resell them. Since they're cyclically reselling them on Amazon, this is not only shady, but a huge conflict of interest, and I have plenty of feelings about that. But if you're the publisher of record, Amazon won't be able to do that. They can't print on demand for you. But companies like Ingram Spark will. So, you publish under your own name with your own ISBN, and your books can only be sold when there is an order. It's another expense, absolutely. But it's worth mentioning this little discussed horror story so that you know one of the hidden pitfalls of letting Amazon do everything for you. Lastly, we're going to touch on the price of your book. Now, first off, you cannot make a book free on Amazon unless it's wide. Other websites will let you list it as free, and then you have Amazon price match it. That said, don't ever do this. I mean it. Do not ever offer anything you write for free, except reader magnets, which we'll talk about next week. Your work took blood, sweat, and tears to create. Do not value that work so little. Also, the kind of retailers that free books attract, there is no evidence you will ever convert them to paying readers. Think about it. There are hundreds of authors out there doing this, and a massive collection of free books at everyone's fingertips. All they have to do is click download. Then what? You get tossed into a to-be-read pile of free books that these readers don't necessarily care about, in the vain hope that they may one day get to your book and think you're the bee's knees and spend some money on your later books. No way. Doesn't happen. Now, Amazon will give you a 30% commission on books under $1.99, a 70% commission on books above that. Most young authors are taking that to mean price at $2.99 to be competitive, and they're wrong. Have you been to a bookstore lately? A graphic novel is like $24. Hardcovers are also in that price range, with your average brand new paperback being $9.99 if it's new. So, I recommend $4.99 for your average 60K to 100K word novel. If you're high fantasy or epic fantasy at like 120,000 words, then even $5.99 is still competitive. After all we've done, we click publish, and now our book is out in the ether. This is the most exciting and frightening time of your life. Enjoy it, because the work is only beginning. Join me next week when we're going to be talking about how to build your audience and get started on your journey to becoming an author as a career. In the meantime, if you're new to the channel, check out the World Building Dojo. We talk and we joke about storytelling using modern and pop culture examples to highlight how we tell stories and, well, how not to. Again, congratulations on writing your first work. You've done something that very few people can really do. So, Now you're about to step into the wide world of publishing your work and approaching it as a career. It's going to be a long road, but know that with perseverance, research, and determination, you will get there eventually. Thanks so much to all of the channel donators as well. This beautiful lady right here is Liana. She is 12 and on the spectrum. We're working with the Boston-based Needs organization, fundraising to get this little lady a service dog. If you'd like to help out, check out the link in the description down below. Also, don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. The link is also in the comments. And you're going to get Cora Blake, Arcane Agent, totally free. You'll get cool news about what I'm working on in books and here on the channel, and it comes loaded with cool authors and promotions for fantasy and sci-fi. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear about new videos, and as always, I'm DC Ferguson. Now have fun and get crafting.